Okay, the African Twin. This is an adventure bike. This bike you could happily use commuting around the cities as well as going off-roading. Nothing crazy. I'd say like deep sand riding through beaches would be a bit of a pain. But man, this is insanely comfortable. One thing I like with the upright position is I got a great view, nice windshield. I don't feel any wind at all. So it'd be great for that fatigue on long rides. Decent wing mirrors. I can see these without even barely having to turn my head, which is a nice touch. Most sport bikes are a little bit of a battle. This is the newest model that they have. Came out this year. And this is E-suspension. And if you don't know what electronic suspension is, it's basically just a normal premium suspension but on steroids. It is constantly making adjustments on the go all the time. So you don't really have to do any major tweaks to the suspension system. It really does cater itself to pretty much any terrain possible. And I can really feel it. I've never had such a smooth ride before. I feel like I'm just sitting in a nice car right now. This is great. We're not doing any off-roading sections, so I won't be able to tell you the performance of that, but there is one decent bump on this track that I've noted for all the other bikes of how well it went over top of it. So yeah, I'll compare it to that and I almost guarantee this is going to feel so much better. The throttle response is amazing. It's very touchy. More than enough power. I'm sitting in third gear at 100, so these gears are super long. It's about 4,000 on the rev scale, 5,000. Stock exhaust is nice and quiet. I wouldn't really think you'd want a custom exhaust for a bike like this, unless you really wanted that performance. The electronic suspension will set you back quite a bit more, but personally I think it's worth it. Everyone I know who has E-suspension absolutely loves it. Yeah, what can I say, man? This is so smooth. This bike is good for tall riders. If you're a short rider, you might want to reconsider this as an option. It is quite top heavy as well compared to most modern day sport bikes or naked bikes. Like just as I was leaving before, I leaned it pretty much how I normally would for any bike, and I really felt I had to pull it back up. So you just got to be careful when you're stopping with these bikes. For any sort of lower speed cornering, I wouldn't lean it too much. I'd kind of counter lean like this with the bike and let it go around the corner. Just in case you do go a little bit too slow, hit the front brake, drop it. It'll be hard to get back up. So yeah, counter leaning this bike like that is, yeah, that's much better. I could probably show you here which one's my indicator. This one. Probably show you here what it looks like to lean with it. Yeah, it's not as nice. I felt that dip in, not very comfortable. Higher speeds you could get away with that. Oh, just realized as well, as I added throttle in, it pulled me back and I felt my bum hit the back seat. So there's a nice little indent that holds you in place. That's really nice. You could ride this bike for hours on end and have no problems. I'm deceiving myself here a little bit because I have hopped on the top model bike you can get for the Africans at the moment. So I'm only experiencing the best that they have to offer. So if you are buying an older model, I'd look into the differences between the brand new model that they currently have in 2026 and see if there was anything that you really wanted specifically. Nice amount of torque in all gears. Really do appreciate that. I haven't had time to do much research on this bike in terms of all the specs and weights and everything. Just simply because I wasn't expecting to test ride this. I've already had my limit for the weekend, but Honda hooked me up and let me take another bike out, which was great. Especially being able to take out their latest model as well. They've got another African Twin here that's the previous generation. So I was saying before, this bike feels quite heavy, especially at the stopping position. But now that I'm moving, the weight just disappears. It just becomes such a light bike. It's really well balanced. The weight's very central, and I'd say it is quite a low center of gravity too. The only reason it feels top heavy is generally because these bikes are quite high, the fuel tank's sitting up high, but the engine sits nice and low, which gives you that good balance point. Very, very nimble for a big bike. So I see for the preload here, because it's all electronic, you can change it on the go, you don't need the tools with you. So currently I see that this is very straightforward. The fact I don't know anything about this and it's very obvious to me. They've set it up so there's 2 helmets and luggage. So currently it's got 2 helmets running but no luggage. So they're estimating this probably for the heavier riders. Whatever reason they've put the 2 helmet setting on. So that's automatically adjusting it for yourself, or having 2 people, or 2 people with luggage. That's pretty handy. Very simple, you don't have to do any math with the weight or balancing. And that is one thing I've noticed with any other bike that I've ridden or owned, is you can never adjust that. You get it set up once for your weight, and then whether you have new gear or you're carrying a backpack with you, you can't really adjust anything from there without the tooling or the knowledge of how to adjust it properly. The clutch is quite light as well. It's on the heavier side compared to lighter weight bikes, but then again, this is quite a grunty touring bike. I'd love to take this bike a little bit more off-road and see what it's really made of, because I know that's where this bike would shine. I want to do a lot more touring so that I can explore my country as well as other countries around the world. Eventually I'd like to go and travel overseas and do multiple weeks or months at a time. Full time with social media, which would be great, but I can't do that on a sport bike, especially one like the Ducati V2 Panigale. So something like this would be incredible. Oh, that's embarrassing, bro. I did way back. Oh well, hey, snooze you lose, brother. So yeah, I'd love to go traveling overseas, and this would be a perfect bike for that. Potentially, if I get lucky in the future, Honda might hook me up a deal, or just simply give me a bike to borrow for the trip. If they would, that would be incredible. I can see why the Honda team wanted me to take this bike out, because there's nothing to hate on. I feel like I can be quite critical sometimes on minor things when it comes to doing reviews, but they obviously know there's not much to pick on with this. Sure, if I compared it to some of the other competitors, there might be little things that I'd notice, but overall this is going to be more than enough for most riders. Plenty of storage options as well, so you don't have to be carrying a backpack like the gentleman in front of us here. One thing I hate from long riding is the aches and pains you get from being hunched over and having a backpack. The general demographic that this bike brings in are generally older people. I'd say around that 40 plus mark generally, maybe around 30 sometimes. But you don't see young people using these. But I could see myself using this, especially because I want to start doing some of that off-roading. Oh my god, this bike has pull. That's something I'll test out soon, as well as the brakes. Let's have a go here. Wow. So I hit the brakes quite hard there. Not crazy, but the suspension, I could really feel the suspension kick in. Just the way it moves. So on most bikes that don't have E-suspension, I'm assuming, we always tip forward. But you'll see here, when I hit the brakes, the bike tips forward, but I don't move at all. That balancing between the rear and the front, it really transfers that weight optimally. And the fact I'm barely squeezing these brakes and they're giving me a lot of power behind it, that's a good sign. That's a good quality brake. There's nothing worse than having a heavy bike with no decent brakes. So who is this bike for? This bike is for someone that would love to do a little bit of off-roading as well as maybe even commuting as well. If you're a full-time commuter, you don't need a bike like this. But if you want to start getting into the off-roading, or once in a while do a large trip down the country, maybe several hours or so, this is definitely a good option for you. It doesn't even have to be technical terrain, just any long distance road riding, this would be a great bike. Most countries have some pretty rugged back roads. You know, they're they're uneven, lots of potholes, bit of gravel, so this bike would do very well. It just glides through the corner. A lot of bikes, I have to really fight them and either keep the counter steering hard or just keep the lean hard. But once I've set this up in the position I want it, it just glides through that exact spot. The fact of going down that corner, I could take my hand off, and this hand was pretty much weightless. It was just sitting here to add throttle. On this next corner here, I'll do the same thing. I'll take my left hand off and I'll just cruise around. I'll add a little bit of counter steer, a little bit of lean, get it set up, and that'll be it. So it's 85 corner, coming in at about 100. Hand off, a little bit lean. Wow, effort. So I'm not even leaning now, not even pushing with my hand. That's pretty good. Although this is my first adventure bike I've tested, I have been on pretty much any other type of bike you could think of, from Harleys to super sport bikes. So I'd say I have a pretty good knowledge of what you're going to feel with a bike and the things you should expect from them, and all the premium features that you can get with them as well. Hey, it's great that I got my my racing leathers on for this bike. I'll look like an absolute tool right now, I bet. Oh my god, a possum, I'm literally going to hit that. See, normally I'd avoid that, but I know this bike can more than handle that. I didn't even feel it. Did I hit it? I'm pretty sure I did. I think the suspension just ate it up. Oh man, so good. I absolutely adore the suspension. Oh man, I have so much faith in this bike. All the other bikes cornering, I was a little bit more skeptical, but this bike, I've got no concern. I'm just giving you my live feedback of how I think that this bike feels on the spot. I think it's almost better than knowing the stats to start with, because I'm not biased. I'm not thinking about, oh, it's got this system. Do I feel the system? And then I think I do just because I've already thought about it. But instead, I'm riding it as it feels, check the stats afterward, and then I'll be like, did I notice this? I'll be like, yep, that's worth it. Otherwise, I'll be like, no, doesn't make a difference, don't bother getting it. That kind of thing. So yeah, I barely left 4th gear. Let's see. 6th gear still has torque up the hill. That is insane. I'm in 5th gear going about 116, and I'm sitting at 4,000 reps. That's lower than any of the other bikes I was testing yesterday. And I don't need to drop a gear to get some power through. I just add a bit of throttle, got it. Any gear I go through. So on a lot of my sport bikes, I've noticed people who are riding these bikes can keep up with me on most hills. Not that I'm the fastest rider out there, but it goes to show these bikes are way more than capable than we think. I always thought these would struggle on the corners, but with the suspension upgrades, you can eat up any corner in any rough terrain. See, like that river, it'd be perfect to go and test this. Alrighty, our bump should be coming up pretty shortly. Watch all these guys go off to the right. I'm just gonna hit this. I'm gonna hit it at more speed than I did on the last ones as well, just to get a good feel. Here it is, this part here. Smooth. Damn. It did bounce me off the seat a little bit, but it was nice. It didn't hurt. The last bikes, you really feel it. So, what are the highlights of this bike in my opinion? I'd say the suspension is the first thing that you notice. Having that high quality suspension just feels amazing, gives you all the confidence in any road condition. This is my first time really testing out a bike with e-suspension, and I'm absolutely loving it. I can really see the difference with it, and the perks of not needing tools to make adjustments with it is simply just changing it on the screen. The second perk of this bike, I would say, is going to be the weight and balance. You'd expect a big bike like this to have a really bad center of gravity, but it doesn't. It feels really nice and balanced at speed. Sure, the slower speed stuff, it will make you work for it a little bit more, but you just counter lean it and there's going to be no problem there. This is a good example on this corner. Nice tight corner, bit of gravel, a little bit of rear brake, counter lean it, and you're through. I probably could have done that in 2nd gear easily. Look at this. Jesus. So much torque for a touring bike. The third perk of this bike is the comfort. I'm sitting upright, super comfy seat. Your legs aren't tucked in too much. You've got great view. You could do hours of riding with this bike and not have any back issues. So if you're someone that has previous injuries, you're a little bit older, or injured, anything like that, or you're doing massive touring trips, this is the kind of bike you want to get. You probably want to stay away from the naked bikes, or especially the sport bikes. If you do get a naked bike, get a big shield, but you can see this one, as I mentioned before, I don't even feel the wind at the top of my head. It blows it over me perfectly. Wow. That's an interesting thing. So I'm just testing out the emergency braking on this bike to see how it handles. I noticed when I really applied the pressure, the hazard lights came on automatically. I'll recheck that on the video footage afterward to make sure that was true. But that's a nice little feature. When you are hard braking, the vehicle behind you might not notice how hard you're braking, and you're not going to have time always to look in your mirrors and get out of the way. So that's a very good feature to have. And in testing that emergency braking, it felt amazing. Most bikes, you really feel yourself getting pulled over at the front. But the design of the suspension and the way it stops, it's very impressive. Let's do it here. Very well balanced. And most obvious, the fourth perk of this bike that I'd say is worth mentioning still is the storage options that you have. Although a lot of bikes you can get storage options, you can't get as many as this, and they also won't handle the weight as efficiently as a bike like this would. And as I mentioned earlier, it has a luggage option button here that you can click and it'll automatically adjust to that extra weight. I spoke with an older fella yesterday that is touring from New Zealand back to Great Britain. For those of you that don't know, that is pretty much on the other side of the world. So that's an incredible route that he's going to do, and he was considering this bike for that trip. So if that's something he's considering, and he's clearly looked into it, it must be an incredible bike for that long distance. I know there'll be a lot of people watching my review on this bike that have either already had this bike or they know way more about this type of bike than I do. Please leave your comments down below of what you think about it. Any points that I should have mentioned as well would be worthwhile adding.